Hello and welcome back. My name is Charlie Mason.
And I'm Charles Iverson. Welcome to the Charles Squared podcast.
This is our second take of this episode looking at Season 2, Episode 6 of The Mandalorian, Chapter 14, titled The Tragedy.
Wow, what a title.
What a title. And it could not be more fitting. I mean, there was a lot that happened in this episode, and we're going to get to all of it.
A lot of tragic stuff.
A lot of tragic stuff. But first, I want to just jump right in with Boba Fett's return. How huge was that?
Yes, that was the least tragic thing about the episode. Oh my gosh.
Honestly, yeah. Him getting his suit returned to him was symbolic in a way. Definitely deserved.
Yeah.
And it turned out to help him in the long run.
Yeah.
But also
well, you say deserved, and I think what's interesting about that is I didn't think he was a real Mandalorian, Like, I think before they've made it kind of clear that he wasn't, but now apparently in canon, he is a Mandalorian as well as his father, Jango Fett. And so I guess it is deserved that the armor gets returned to him.
I think they mentioned that his father, Jango, was a foundling. They said that.
Yes, that's what they said.
And that Boba was never trained through the guild. He was never a foundling. But it's like a birthright to get your father's armor.
Right,
So it was deserved in the end.
Yeah, so he says he hasn't taken the creed, or at least it's implied he hasn't taken the creed.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think that's kind of a gray area when you inherit armor from like a parent who is a Mandalorian.
Yeah, I didn't see that coming. I'm still, how did he lose it again? Did they say?
Well, yeah, no, they really don't. That's interesting because, all right, let's walk through this.
Okay.
In Return of the Jedi, he gets eaten by the Sarlacc.
Maybe, I bet you that's probably where he loses it.
Yeah, somehow he escapes, but then the armor must have escaped with him, right? Because it turns out, so why in the world did he somehow lose the armor? Or how could he lose it if it came out of the Sarlacc with him? He must have willingly given it up and now he wants it back somehow.
That's a great point. Yeah. Yeah, that's actually very interesting. Now that's going to be stuck on my mind all night.
Yeah, right.
I'm going to have to do some researching later. I promise that we will cover that if we ever do find out the backstory behind Boba Fett and his lost armor. It will be covered. So
it might just be a plot hole, honestly.
It might be. I hope not, but it could be. Okay. Next, I want to move on to the Seeing Stone. Kind of not new. It's not new. Well, I mean, it was kind of a new concept.
Yeah, it's a new concept. I don't know.
I feel like we've heard the Seeing Stone before.
Yeah.
I've heard that phrase before.
Well,
Rey was sitting on a stone, right?
Oh, yes, in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, in The Last Jedi.
Yeah, that was a stone. It didn't have like the weird glowing
No, it
beam,
did not.
though. That's the
force
thing.
field. The force field. What does that symbolize? What the heck was going on? Grogu was trapped.
Or was Grogu trapped, or was Mando kept out?
Yeah, actually, no, you're right. Mando was kept out.
Well, no, I'm not saying it's either way.
No.
I'm just saying it. I think it's ambiguous.
No, that definitely goes both ways.
Like, who knows what was going on in Grogu's end?
I wanna think that he was somehow signaling other Jedis.
Well, I think that's what was implied.
That was implied.
Who knows what was really going on in there?
Why was it taking so long? Why was it impenetrable? Why haven't we seen it before? There are a lot of things going on with the Seeing Stone. And I feel like Obi-Wan mentioned it in the prequels. I feel like the Seeing Stone was mentioned before.
Yeah, when Ahsoka mentioned it in the 5th episode, it did seem like a familiar concept, but like
I swear in his training of Anakin. No, maybe it wasn't Anakin. No, maybe I'm wrong. Still. I thought that Obi-Wan had been mentioned in the prequels.
It might have been.
It might have been. But anyways, let's get back on track here. The Seeing Stone, huge part of the tragedy, huge. I want to say for over 15 minutes, right? of the episode,
Yeah.
Grogu was probably, we don't want to say trapped because we don't know,
Right.
but he was within this impenetrable force field.
He was in a meditative state.
He was in a meditative state. And those blue signals going, how far did it reach? What was it reaching to?
Well, it seemed like in one of the shots, I think there was like one shot where you could like see it rising into the sky. Like it seemed like it was going up pretty high.
Definitely. Especially after they followed the Dark Troopers. But that's for later.
Wait, okay, I just thought of something. When you mentioned the length of the beam, what if the beam itself was reaching all the way like into space, and like the actual beam itself came into contact with a Jedi or some other Force being?
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, like, so in that sense, it's almost like he was literally reaching out through the Force.
You know what it reminded me of when I was thinking of Marvel? Thor.
Yeah, the Bifrost.
The Bifrost.
Yeah.
That's what it was. You know, which is, I mean, obviously it didn't transport anywhere, but definitely could have been a way of communication with other Force-sensitive beings. Let's put it there. And I think you're just talking about the Seeing Stone getting into the episode. You can't ignore our old buddy Moff Gideon coming back.
Oh. He might be one of my favorite Star Wars bad guys, honestly. Like,
He hasn't said much at all.
Not my favorite, but one of my favorites, just because, you're right. He hasn't said much. He hasn't had much screen time. But just the idea of him is so cool, and I think they're going to do some really cool stuff with him. I mean, he has the Darksaber, and according to lore, if you have the Darksaber, you are the rightful leader of Mandalore. However, I mean, he really isn't, though, because he probably just took it from someone when he pillaged Mandalore.
But wouldn't it be interesting if he was?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, he and his Imperial unit, or whatever, destroyed Mandalore, so that makes him an incredibly intriguing character, because Mandalorians are not easy to defeat.
No, they are not. No. But his plan... So we're going to jump ahead to the end. So he he kidnaps Grogu with the Dark Troopers, which again, we're going to get to. I want to talk about those Dark Troopers. So he kidnaps Grogu. And remember, when we flash back to Season 2, Episode 4, after they come back to the planet and they find the research lab, we kind of see... And we talked about this, the Snoke-like figures. The figures that could impersonate or replicate Supreme Leader Snoke.
Yes, see our previous episode.
Yeah, if you want to see our mind-blowing reactions
yes.
to predicting that Snoke is created from the blood of Grogu. We think, what's the next step? What do you think the next step is going to be?
Well, at the end of the most recent episode, Moff Gideon does say to tell Dr. Pershing, we have our donor. So it's now confirmed that Grogu is the donor. So I think now the next step is simply they're going to take more blood. I mean, I think... That would be too simple, though, right? Like, I think that's probably their initial plan, but I think maybe Moff Gideon might start training Grogu in the ways of the dark side. I don't think Moff Gideon himself is Force sensitive, so I don't know if he knows much about the dark side, but I think he's probably been around Vader a lot, so I think he would know somewhat how to train Grogu in the dark side.
That definitely makes sense, especially with the last comment he made.
Right.
When he takes out the Darksaber and the last thing he says to Grogu, you're not ready for this yet. Implying that one day he may be ready to wield the Darksaber.
Yep.
Oh, but actually I just thought of something, but I kind of want to wait till the end, the predictions section of our show. But I'll talk about it there. Let's move on to the overall plot of what we think the next episode is going to be based around. Kind of what happens at the end of episode 6, the assembling of a team, mimicking last season's Chapter 7 and Chapter 8, in which they assemble a team to again, in a way, take down Moff Gideon.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, last season, you see him going back to, what's it called? Sorgan and whatever that other desert planet was called to recruit Queel and Cara Dune and, well, also the IG-11, the bounty droid, and then he teams up with Grief Karga back on Navarro. Anyway, I think in this season it seems like he's doing that on a much bigger scale. You already see the parts moving for this with him getting the information to break out, what's his name? Mayfeld in the next episode.
Mayfeld's coming back.
Oh yeah, I think that a big portion of next episode will be breaking out Mayfeld, but I think he'll also be recruiting Bo-Katan, because she wants the Darksaber, so that would fit into the plot perfectly. Cara Dune, of course, maybe Grief Karga again, hopefully Ahsoka, Cobb Vanth maybe from the first episode. I can see him getting in on it.
And Boba Fett is already.
Yeah, Boba Fett and Fennec Shand are already indebted to him. Of course, they need to come along too because he needs a ship.
He needs a ship. Yeah, right. But that's a pretty stellar. That's a pretty all-star lineup. I mean,
yeah.
And I'm scared that Chapter 7 is going to be more about assembling the team and not about fighting.
But Chapter 8 would be epic then. Sorry, Chapter 16.
Chapter 16.
Yeah.
Episode 8 would be awesome then. But I'm hoping that Chapter 8 is not leaving us with a cliffhanger. That's all the build-up is scaring me. How close we're getting to the end and how, I guess, far we are, in my eyes, from defeating Moff Gideon.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, it seems like Moff Gideon is just like winning victory after victory here. I mean, you see him kind of have a defeat at the end of the first season, but like that's just a minor stumble for him.
Exactly.
I mean, he just got the child. Let's see. Previously, he put a tracker on Mando's ship, no problem. I mean, he's got the Dark Troopers. Let's talk about the Dark Troopers.
The Dark Troopers. Let's get into that really quick. Wow, what I feel like these are just like next gen, never seen before. But well, I mean, we didn't see them in the sequel trilogy, right?
Right.
We didn't see them in the sequel trilogy. We didn't see them in the original trilogy.
No.
So short-lived the Dark Trooper was. But what an impactful role I think it's going to play in the battle. I think it's going to be the Dark Troopers versus the Mandalorians.
Right, yeah, because, no offense to Stormtroopers, but kind of offense to Stormtroopers.
Yeah.
Like, their reputation is already ruined by the original trilogy. Everyone knows Stormtroopers aren't that great.
No.
Like, they're too easy to take down. They need a bigger threat for the final fight in this show, and I think the Dark Troopers are going to deliver on that. In this episode, they basically just start to take Grogu and look cool. But I think they wouldn't bring them in without them playing a bigger role.
Exactly. We didn't see a lot of them. We didn't see a lot of the action, a lot of what the Dark Troopers are capable of. But from that scene of them flying down, I mean, wow. Just watching them just fly like the way they were, how big they were.
Oh my gosh,
It was just... I mean, I'm pretty sure that Boba Fett probably could have knocked them all out of the air. Of course, it was too risky with Grogu being there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Boba Fett definitely could have done the job.
But, you know what I was upset about? The entire episode after... Din Djarin took off his jetpack.
Yes!
He took off his jetpack.
That literally only served so that they could take Grogu at the end.
I was screaming at the computer screen, at the TV.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
so upset. It's one of those moments where you wish you were there. Where
Yes.
you wish you could say, hey, turn around and pick up your jetpack.
I know. Like, it may have been in the other direction. I don't know, but it still would have been a lot faster. He would have gotten there.
It would...
Oh my gosh. Okay, I don't get why Boba Fett even wanted him to take it off in the first place. Like, he's like, hey, put your jetpack down and we can talk. Like, why the jetpack? Like, why not have him put his gun down?
And he did. He did put the gun down.
Well, yeah.
But now, with no more Razor Crest. Let's talk about that. No more Razor Crest.
Oh my gosh.
His 2 possessions. Assuming he finds his jetpack, he picks it up. 3 possessions: his jetpack, his blaster, and his Veskar spear.
Oh my god.
Woo! Is that thing nice?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, of course it survived. It's Beskar, but the fact that it survived, I think, shows that they are setting up a fight with Moff Gideon and Mando, melee combat style. Mando with the spear, Moff Gideon with the darksaber. Hopefully Ahsoka will be part of it in some way too, with her 2 white lightsabers, but maybe not. It's not her show.
Yeah, I think that'd be very, very interesting. I'm actually excited to see it now. I really hope that happens.
Yeah. Oh, you know what else survived the explosion? The ball.
The ball. The little ball from the joystick type gear shifter in the Razor Crest. And do you want to talk about the symbolism, that meaning that ball holds?
Yeah, to me, honestly, it's still a little unclear what it's supposed to really symbolize, but I think it's just so powerful that it's kind of been this bonding thing between Mando and Grogu. I'm still in the habit. Mando and Grogu throughout, all the episodes. It hasn't been in all the episodes, but it's there throughout the series. I think you first see it in the 3rd episode of the entire series, and Mando gives it to him after he rescues him, and that's when their bonding really starts to begin, I feel like. Then you see it in this season when Mando uses it to get Grogu to train in the Force with Ahsoka, because he won't grab the rock like Ahsoka wants. However, because that ball has personal attachment, I think it's because they got such a close bond. And then you see him getting Grogu to practice the Force at the beginning of this episode with it.
I think it holds it shows, I feel like the ball symbolizes their connection, their relationship, the father-son type of dynamic that they've created.
And it prevailed even during that huge explosion.
Yes, which obviously they did on purpose. Which was done on purpose. You know what I'm thinking now? What if they break into the Imperial cruiser, in the Imperial ship, and he sees Grogu and has to get his attention, and Grogu Force takes the ball, and that in some way helps him escape or defeat Moff Gideon. I just think that would be awesome.
You know what might happen is Grogu is passed out or in some sort of daze because they've taken a bunch of blood from him, more than they should have. And so, like you said, they might have to get his attention. And how he does that is he pulls the ball out of his pocket, and he just holds it up, and then somehow
that wakes up Grogu.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. That sounds kind of ridiculous.
It's a stretch, but hey, I think that he'll be able to sense his presence, which is important. But I definitely think we should cover Grogu force choking. Was he force choking?
That's what it seemed like.
Force choking the stormtroopers. It obviously wasn't powerful enough because he was trying to do 2 at once. But him using the Force in that way against stormtroopers just is not set up for the way I see it, his decision between dark versus light.
Yeah, I think it's very telling of the path he might choose.
I'm scared that he's going to choose the dark side.
Yeah, like I said, that Moff Gideon might try to train him that way, and that might play into that somehow. Also, see the last episode where I talk about why he might choose the dark path.
Yep. I mean, it's just so much to unpack in this episode. So I think we're going to get to predictions and close out this section. So do you have any, just to start us off, what you think is going to happen in the next coming episodes?
So first of all, like I said, he'll be assembling the team in the next episode. Right. Like you said, the next episode will probably just be that, and then the third. I mean, sorry, not the third. The 8th episode, the final episode of the season, will just be probably a huge fight Hopefully we get to see Ahsoka fighting in action again. Maybe not. Honestly, I'm not exactly sure what to expect as far as how the season will end.
I've got a couple of huge predictions coming up. So I think that the Seeing Stone alerts a new Jedi, one we haven't met, or maybe one that we have met, who received Obi-Wan's signal during Order 66 and survived.
Ooh, okay.
I mean, they didn't have to receive because obviously that was a prequel. That was a long time ago. But I feel like we would have seen all the Jedi assemble in the rebellion when they fight the Empire in the actual trilogy.
Yeah, I think most of the Jedi Masters are probably gone at this point.
But there could be an apprentice that we forgot about, somebody that we forgot, a Padawan we forgot about.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody who broke through and survived all of this, like Ahsoka.
Yeah.
That comes back and is kind of this force in the last two episodes, or maybe somebody that kind of pulls a Captain Marvel and comes in at the last second, not the last second, but close to the last second to help the team out.
I think that's a good theory.
Yeah. So that was my prediction. You got anything else you want to cover?
Well, why don't you tell them the theory about Ahsoka that you mentioned in our first attempt to do this episode, where she makes the sacrifice.
Oh, man.
Yeah, because this theory blew my mind, guys.
Okay, so Ahsoka. She will not train Grogu. She has decided that Mando's connection to Grogu is too strong, that she won't be able to train him. And I brought up the idea that if she comes back to the team, or if she makes that last-minute appearance like I just talked about, she might be the one to lay her life on the line to protect Grogu in the end, to help him survive as a noble death at the end of a long-lived, they don't really talk much about her life past the prequel Clone Wars series, but just kind of as a symbolic gesture towards Grogu, keeping the Force alive, keeping the Jedi alive, and kind of ending her own as redemption.
Yeah.
For ignoring Grogu. Not ignoring him, but kind of pushing him out of the way. So yeah, that was just the theory, and that would be a noble death.
It would be an amazing death. I mean, I
I
think there are some plot points that might conflict with that, but I think if that happened, that would be such a satisfying way for her to go.
Because she doesn't come back in the sequel series. We know that in the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, she's got to be dead by then. So
she has to be. So she's dead by then. I mean, I couldn't see her unless season 3 is somehow released, or when season 3 is released, if it is. And she survives the test of time and maybe dies in season 3. But I mean, if she doesn't, then I think this is the most probable way for her to die, and for the creators to do it in an honorable, respectable fashion that kind of fits the theme of this season's build-up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we've covered everything.
Yeah, on that somber note.
Yeah, on that terrible note. My bad. Well, we just want to thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next week after Season 2, Episode 7, Chapter 15 comes out. We're expecting some amazing episodes to finish off this incredible season. So, like, subscribe, share. But thank you if you made it this far. Thank you for listening. So.
Yep. See you next time on the Charles Squared Podcast.